hold you close, but you know my mind is torn up. I never thought it'd be like this. We're like a broken record.
Well, hello. Oh boy, what have I gotten myself into this time? Well, right now I'm walking right in the middle of a dry stream bed, trying to make heads or tails out of what's going on. Okay, I decided to come up with something a little bit different today. My normal landscape routine. I think I'm going to break that routine today, and I'm going to try something called ICM Photography. ICM actually stands for Intentional Camera Movement. And I've been on YouTube and I've been watching a number of photographers, and I've been pretty impressed with some of the results that they've gotten. It's a bit unconventional. Normally you would want images to be sharp if you're a photographer. But in this case, what you're doing is you're taking a shot, normally with obviously with a longer exposure, maybe about a second and a half. And what you're doing is you're pressing the shutter, and then you're giving the camera some movement as the exposure is being taken. And then later, when you process the image in post, sometimes it's pretty amazing some of the things that you can come up with. A lot of the images have a very painterly type feel to them, and I was pretty impressed. Recently, Thomas Heaton went with a photographer in the UK, and I was pretty impressed with some of the results that they've gotten. I've tried this one other time before, and it really piqued my curiosity. So I'm going to try that today and see what I can come up with. Well, let's hope for the best.
'Cause we always mess it up, even though we say we never do that. So here we go, acting like we do. We say things that are not true, but somehow I'm still here. I'm addicted to the way you make me feel. I've been trying to get away, but you're like chemicals, and I don't know if
Okay. Let's see, I think I found something that might be suitable. Well, first of all, with ICM photography, or intentional camera movement, it's done pretty much the same way as conventional photography is concerned. You definitely want to make sure everything is in focus. You want to make sure that the exposure is correct, and you want to find a relatively suitable composition. All right, behind me, I found another stream here. And the sun is getting at a pretty good angle right now, and I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing. So I'm going to try this. All right, basically, as I mentioned earlier, with ICM, you basically just want to focus, find a basic composition, press the shutter, and then give the camera some type of movement. Basically, you need to take quite a few shots, because obviously you just can't look at a scene and know exactly what it's going to look like when you give it that type of camera movement. So basically you're going to take a lot of shots over and over and over, different angles, different exposures. I generally like to stay between a second and a half. For this right here, let's see, it's giving me about a second and a half at f-stop 13. So I think I'm going to go ahead and try my first one right now and see what I get. All right, I'm using auto-focusing on this. I normally manually focus, but this is adequate. And I'll press the shutter. What I do is I press the shutter, hold it just momentarily, then move the camera. You will basically want to kind of freeze in that initial, the initial image in the scene. So autofocus, and that's it. All right, we're getting a pretty good variety here. Like I said, autofocus really comes in handy here. There's really no need to manually focus, because the images are not going to be razor sharp. As I said earlier, they're going to basically have a painterly effect to them. Okay, I'm going to continue to take some more images and see exactly what I can come up with. Most of these images are basically just going to be for this one area. Let's see, as I said earlier, you still want to make sure that your exposure is good. So I'm going to check my histogram. And I'll give it just a little more exposure here. That's good. All right, these are having a pretty good effect. 2 seconds is actually working pretty well here. So I think I'm going to stick with 2 seconds and see what I can, see what comes up.
I can hear them thinking out loud, loud. Simple people acting so proud.
Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll vary the movement here a bit. I won't move quite as much on this next shot. Keep the movement relatively isolated. Okay. All right. Yes, I think I can actually do something with these. Okay, I've come across something else that I think might make a relatively good composition and ultimately a good ICM image. I'm going to try this and take some multiple images and see what happens. Auto-focusing. Now I have the shutter speed set for 1 second. I found that that's working pretty well now. And just give the camera a very slight movement. Not much at all. Okay. Interesting. All right, this is pretty good. Now I'm going to do something a bit more abrupt and perhaps give it a more abstract appearance. Okay, I think that was a bit much. I'll keep the movements very, very subtle. Move over this way and I can get the tree in the picture here, in the image. And we'll try this. All right, these are working out nicely. With a little editing, these should be pretty good. The thing about this is you have to take quite a few images because you never know what you're going to get from one exposure to the next. So just take multiple images and you choose the best ones. And that's basically what you do in standard photography as well. You take your images, hopefully you take a number of them, and then you choose the best ones. This is basically no different. All right, that's nice. It's getting a nice painterly appearance to them now. Once we get a little post-processing in, we should be able to enhance that even more. I'm finding that basically the more subtle the movements are, at 1 second, the better off you are. I'm definitely thinking that there's something here that can be worked with in post without much of a problem. I'm going to see if I can get one more composition under my belt before I head in.
I can hear them thinking
Okay, anyway, I hope you got something from that pretty brief tutorial on ICM photography. So hopefully something that I said was beneficial and you got something from it. I learned a bit myself just in the process of shooting everything. So I'm going to get back, process these images, and hopefully I'll have those posted pretty soon. Well, as always, until next time.